Hey, pilot, welcome back to Ready for Pushback. I'm Nick Fialka. You found a great interview show with a fellow podcaster, a man named Jim Schilling. He runs two different flying podcasts, Flying Midwest and Fly the Transition. They're two great podcasts where he interviews really interesting pilots from all different disciplines, all different things. And this is a lot of fun. I enjoy talking to Jim a lot because I have talked to him twice already. And the beginning of the show will tell you all about that. Man, I hope you're flying. I hope things are going great for you today. Maybe you're headed to the gym, something like that. I need to certainly head to the gym, get a workout in. So that's on my plan today. Yeah, man. So keep crushing, keep flying, and sit back, relax. Let's get ready for Pushback. It all started as a spark. Maybe it was the sound of jets racing across the sky. Or the feeling of your heart racing as you watch a crop duster flying low and slow. Even then, you knew you were meant to fly. For pilots, it's more than just a job. It's a calling. The early mornings, the long hours, the relentless training. You didn't do it for the money. You did it for that moment. That moment when the wheels lift off and the earth falls away beneath you. But flying is just the beginning. The journey to your dream job takes more than just skill in the sky. It takes strategy on the ground and a lifetime of learning.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. Learn how to go from good to great, from flight school to regional to major, and from hopeful to hired. Whether you're sharpening your skills, building your resume, or preparing for that big interview, this is where pilots come to level up. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
All right, Jim Schilling, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Man, I'm thankful that you would come back on my show, despite the fact that I never released the episode that you and I recorded maybe a year ago.
Probably. All the more reason for me to come back and talk to you.
That's right. For the pilot that's listening, I have known Jim for a long time, and he has a couple podcasts, which we'll get into. We recorded an episode about a year ago, and something happened to it. I don't know what happened to it. It disappeared into the ether. It was never released. I'm not sure where it is. And so here we are. We're re-recording because he's very gracious. And man, he texted me 15 minutes ago and was like, "Hey, can you record right now?" I was like, "Yes, let's go."
I just happened to be off today, so things worked out. And I think that episode is kind of like that sock that you lose in the dryer. It's just gone forever.
Yeah, as soon as we're done, it's going to show up somewhere in the thing.
Yep. So it goes.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry,
worries.
Pilot that's listening as well. All right, I'm going to sit here and drink my coffee while you tell me about your two awesome podcasts, which is Flying Midwest podcast and Fly the Transition. Why do you have two podcasts, dude?
Well, I started with one. It was just after COVID, and I was trying to find a way to get more engaged in aviation. And a friend of mine, we both were listening to podcasts together in the aviation space, and I'm like, hey, I think I want to do something because there's all these podcasts out there. And at the time, like, they're all these East Coast or West Coast guys. There's nothing specific to our region. And my buddy's like, yeah, that's not really for me, but I know a guy who's kind of thinking the same thing. So that's how I got hooked up with my first co-host, Trevor. And he's like, I want to bring the CFI on with, and we'll have like a CFI minute, which suddenly turned into, instead of me and him just talking about regional like news and events for aviation in the Midwest, she started doing the CFI minute thing, and we're like, she's awesome. She's on the podcast. She's a co-host, and she doesn't know it yet. So Maddie is still with us. We brought her in to be a co-host. She is now currently flying. She just started like a 135 gig a couple weeks ago, but I've followed her like through this whole journey of becoming a CFI and then into flying this corporate gig. So at any rate, that podcast turned into mostly us talking to people either in or from the Midwest who have something cool to talk about with aviation. So that being, they got a cool program, or it's just an awesome person in aviation. We had, Rob Ryder, who's of the Sporties fame, come and talk to us, a Midwestern guy. But just to focus on the great people and things happening in aviation in the Midwest. So it started with that. And then how it came into 2 podcasts is, as I'm talking to people and like seeking out guests and opportunities, I started finding people that were trying to figure out how to make a way into aviation as a career. And I kept hearing more and more and more of that, especially as we're like in this post-COVID era where we have people that aren't necessarily like married to a job for 20, 30 years anymore. They're like, this isn't my gig. And I want to do something I'm passionate about, something that I love, and aviation being the thing. So as I talk to more and more people about that and I hear more and more stories, I'm like, this is an awesome opportunity to share those stories, inspire others who are like on the fence about, can I do this? Like, yeah, absolutely you can. So that's where Fly the Transition came from, of just those stories of people making that leap. And the other thing I like about that too is I'm able to also talk to people who aren't just going the route of getting into the flight deck somewhere. Like we're talking to people who have become airport managers and other, gigs within the aviation space, because, there's the people out there who aren't going to make it to the pilot route for medical reasons or whatever, but they still love aviation and they still want to find a path. So that's another area I like to focus on as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool place to be, because now that you mention it, there have been so many news stories and conversations with people that have realized that sitting behind a desk 8 to 10 hours a day, you don't have to do it, and that there are other things out there, lots of other things. However, flying professionally certainly is one of the things that takes longer to do, is more risky for a life plan, because it just is so fickle and treacherous with hiring and no hiring and finding a job and being able to, you have to go to that place where you're flying to actually do it. So you can't really do it remotely. And so it can be a little trickier, but I mean, even, from major airline to corporate to private to everything in between, like there seems to be a glove for every hand in all of aviation. And that's what you focus on.
Oh, for sure. Yep. Absolutely.
You also are not a full-time pilot, are you?
I'm not. Nope.
Tell me what it is you do here.
I would love to. My full-time job is I am an administrator for a law enforcement agency in the Twin Cities. So what that means is I'm a licensed peace officer in the state of Minnesota, but I am in an administrative role. So I run a major crimes unit within our organization. So I've been in law enforcement for, that's 25 years, I think, between civilian and military law enforcement.
So you're a cop who works on some of the most heinous crimes in your area.
Yes.
God. And you've been doing that for 25 years.
I wasn't detective the whole time. I mean, like any law enforcement agency, I think you see a lot on TV, like, I'm going to go be a detective, and you just get right into it. It doesn't necessarily work that way. Just like you don't just jump into a major airline. You work the road, you're a patrol officer, you're working, in weird shifts and holidays, chasing calls and chasing bad guys, all that stuff, until you get an opportunity to go to the quote unquote majors. At least that's what it is to me, because I love doing it. But to get into investigative work, which is where my passion is within law enforcement.
Is your ringtone on your phone the Law and Order song?
No, it's not. Actually, my text ringtone is in the airplane ding.
That's good.
Which good. For you pilots are like, that's probably really lame. But like to me, and all my law enforcement friends are like, oh, they think it's an nerdy thing too. Now that I think about it, so
I'll raise you one step dorkier.
Okay.
My text message sound is from an Airbus 320. It's the sound at which there's a disagreement in the autopilot system. It goes chirp, chirp. That is my text message sound. So I have to be careful anytime I'm jump seating on an Airbus to shut that thing down.
I bet.
So those dudes don't think they're getting shut down.
Like, what's happening?
Also, I'm just gonna say, pro tip for those of you that do dork out like that: please don't put the fire bell for any airplane as anything to do with your phone, because multiple times events like that have happened where people have had terrible results because of like a fake fire bell. Anyway,
Oof.
there's my little public service announcement.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. So how did you become an aviation enthusiast if you are running crimes all day and doing all the craziness of being a detective?
So that goes way back to when I was in high school. I was in a junior ROTC program in my high school, an Air Force junior ROTC program, and I did a couple of base visits where we jumped in with the Minneapolis, I think it was Air Guard, and flew to different bases. And so we're flying in these C-130s from here to like Keesler Air Force Base in Mississippi, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Wow.
And when I got out of high school, I'm like, I'm going to go into the Air Force and I'm going to get some kind of flight job. Was my goal until the Air Force said, no, you're not. Your depth perception sucks. Would you like to have a gun instead? Which was, I don't know how that translates, but it did. And fortunately for me, it's worked out really, really well. But I wanted to have an enlisted flight crew job, but you need depth perception, I think, to refuel aircraft in midair. So that makes sense. Long story short, I went to try to get a waiver, and the IDOC's like, your depth perception's fine. And the Air Force is like, no, we're going to go with our test. We're good. So would you still like to be a cop? So at that point I was committed. I'm like, I want to go into the military. I want to serve. I want to be in the Air Force. If I can't be in a flight crew, I'm at least going to be around a lot of cool airplanes. So that's how my spark started. And then when I got out of the Air Force, the city that I started working in as a police officer had a relief airport for MSP. And I was at that airport all the time. Just if I had a lunch break, I would go park somewhere and I would just watch airplanes until a point where I'm like, why am I just sitting here watching these planes? Like, I want to learn how to fly. I got involved with the Civil Air Patrol. I did some orientation flights with some people on the adult side. And I'm like, I'm going to get my certificate. And then I became a pilot, and then into instrument, and then got my commercial. And I'm slowly working on my CFI rating. But with just the shuffles I've had in life with my professional life at work, I haven't had time to commit to my CFI like I would like to.
Yeah, but also I'll tell you, high five to you for knowing where your capability stands, because going through CFI it can be a slog, and you have to be on top of the game, because there's such a huge variety of traps you could fall into if you to go on a check ride and not be 110% prepared. And nobody ever feels 110% prepared, but you have to be able to put the work in and get to that point where you're like, well, here we go. And so if you're not there yet, you're way smarter to just chill out, keep plugging, just keep swimming, and just keep going and keep putting the flights in front of each other until you really are.
Yep. And it doesn't help that my plane's down for an engine overhaul right now. That kind of puts a damper on everything too.
Do you own your own plane?
I'm part owner in a Sundowner. So there's 5 of us that own it. So we split all the costs, but it's engine overhaul time, and it's taken a minute.
Has that been a good opportunity? Do you think that was a good idea, being a partner in airplane ownership?
Originally, I didn't go that route. When I first started, I looked at all the different options, and shameless plug for myself, I have a podcast episode 2 that covers those different options. From, do I find a flight school? Do I join a club? Do I purchase an aircraft myself? And for me, when I did all the numbers and math in my area, at least, the flying club was the option for me. And that's what I joined. It was like a 40-member partnership type club at the time that had like 8 different CFIs in it. So I was able to plug in with the CFI who I still fly with regularly now. We own a plane together. She's part of the partnership of the 5 with the Sundowner. So that worked out well for me to start until I got to a point where I wasn't really chasing ratings anymore. So I didn't need the availability that the club had, because they had 5 different aircraft I could jump in. So ownership was the route for me from there.
Yeah, that's so smart. Anytime I ask somebody about owning planes and things like that, it's pretty selfish for me. It's not really for the pilot listening, because as my children get older, I think about, how am I going to enter this realm of paying if they want to fly, which is I think a good opportunity. So if they do, how am I going to swing this thing? So I'll probably do an entire series on suffering my way through that.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about the partnership that we have with 5 people is we split all those costs 5 ways, but we also charge ourselves by the hour still. And portion of that goes into a maintenance fund for oil changes, regular maintenance stuff. And the other part goes into this overhaul fund that we created. So when the overhaul comes up, it's not this huge kick to our wallets because we've been saving for years for this, hour by hour. The other thing with that is it's a little bit more equitable to the 5 of us, where 2 people don't really fly that often and 3 fly more. So it's more equitable in that sense with the overhaul of I've put in more money because I've flown it more than this guy who hasn't flown in a year.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. Math. It's an amazing thing.
Math is amazing.
How do you find your guests for your show?
Couple of different routes I find for Fly the Transition. The big pushes I typically tend to do is I have a bunch of different social media groups I'm part of that are like pilots over 50 or these different student pilot groups or mentoring groups. And I'll just ask them like, hey, I have this podcast out here and I'm trying to, inspire others with the stories of someone who came from one thing and went to something else. So if your story could be inspiring to somebody else, come talk to me. And I've had a lot of success with that. Typically, I do them in big bunches. So there will be like a 2-3 month period where I am just pounding through the interviews so that I've got these stockpiled so that when busy times like this in my life come up, I don't have to worry about interviewing someone every other week. I already have the stockpile ready to go. And I just plug and play.
Yeah, I would say I bank my shows as well. That was one of the things I learned early on that you need to. I usually keep 30 days worth of episodes in the bank, and sometime I went as far as I had almost 6 months worth of episodes banked, and then I found out the hard way. This was like 2 years ago that if you do that, sometimes the things you speak about are no longer relevant because the world has changed. But a couple months works out. And I hate being under pressure because the way I do it, Anna, my wife, is so awesome about just managing the kids and stuff like that. And then I make some schedules when I'm done, when I'm not flying, and I have 1 or 2 and I do 1 or 2 a couple days later and it works out. And she's been real gracious about it.
That's great.
Yeah. Cranking out. If I had to crank out, like today we're doing 3 episodes. That's the most I've done in a long, long time. I'm gonna be real tired, but I got
3 is a lot.
3 is a lot.
3 is the most I've done in a day too. Cause after the halfway through the 3rd one, I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. What did we talk to this guy about that thing? Or was it that last guy? And it starts to just blend together. Yeah. So 3 was kind of my max too.
I hear you. It's important. You gotta be fresh for the listener.
Well, and for your guests too. I mean, you've got a guest who's coming in here, giving of their time, sharing of their experience. And for me, I want to make sure I'm doing their story justice. So if I'm half committed halfway through the episode, I'm like, that's not fair to them.
I just want you half committed to this. That's all I want.
I am about a quarter committed to this right now. So I'll work up to a half.
Thanks.
It's always going to have room to grow.
That's right. That's right. Oh, Lord. Do you have any desire in your path right now to do like a major airline job or a commercial job?
So I'm glad that you asked that. And that's kind of where I landed in doing these podcasts. I know where my limit is in aviation, and it's going to max out at CFI because of my medical. I'm not going to be able to get a medical to fly professionally, even though I would love that opportunity. Where we're at right now, though, with the way that the medical reform is like I said, I'll top out at CFI. So I'm able to steal a term that you gave me the last time that we talked in a recorded environment a year ago of growing where I'm planted. So I know where my limitations are. I know where my abilities are because I love having a creative outlet. Law enforcement's a really stressful job. So I've preached in that profession for years of find something that has absolutely nothing to do with this profession as your outlet. You have to have something. Otherwise, this job will destroy you. It just is what it is. It's a very difficult profession. If you don't take care of yourself, it's even worse. Yeah. So that's where I got into this space of like, all right, I love creating things. I like taking these interviews and making a final product that I can be proud of. I can put out an episode and it's something that fortunately has inspired others, which is really humbling for me that something I put out there has inspired others to continue in their path towards aviation. So though I may not be able to do it myself, I can take the skills I have as an interviewer from being a detective for half of my career and talk to people, tell their stories, and inspire others to be able to take a leap.
I'm nervous about those detective skills getting me to confess to something, mostly.
You won't even know what happened. It'll be fine.
Oh my God.
I'm so rusty with being being an administrator. I haven't worked a case like as a detective in about 5 years. So you're okay. I'm really rusty. You'll probably see it coming. Like that feels like this is a trap. I'm not going to answer that question.
I know. I don't want to meet any of your friends ever. So I think what you just said there a minute ago was really interesting about, where your cap is, and that's going to be CFI. And
Yep.
I don't know if you've listened to my interview with my mentor. His name's Michael Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
That guy has been a CFI for as long as I've known him, and I've known him since I was 16. And he never went to the airlines and never went down that road because he chose this route.
Yeah.
Because he did so many other things, but he loved flying and he loves teaching and he's so freaking good at it. And he's so involved in the aviation community. And that, to me, that really tells me like what he's made a whole life on it. It's so cool. And it's such a good opportunity. It's not like stopping at CFI, if that's where your thing is super awesome and super honorable and a great way to have impact in your community, because all of a sudden after you're a CFI for 3 years and then 5 years, probably 5 years, and then you're the most senior CFI in your area, right?
Yeah, because we need those CFIs. They're going to be in there for the long haul too. You've got the ones that I need my hours. I'm going to, transition to an airlines at some point, but I got to get these hours. And I've talked to too many people where that's their story of, I was working with the CFI and then they went to the airlines. So I'm working with a new CFI now. Nothing wrong with that. It's a great way to get the hours and move your way through your career. But the industry does still need those people who are going to be just the full-time CFIs as well.
Yeah. The guy that all the young CFIs can reach out to, be like, I don't know what to do with this person.
Yeah.
And then you're like, bring him on over. Let's go.
Yep.
Yeah. Mr. Phillips also works specifically with some aircraft manufacturers to help people that buy these aircraft get checked out on them, and just with very specific people. And I thought that was a really interesting, creative way to fly some cool stuff and to do some things and to be involved in the aviation community in a deeper level. All the things. And you are in a prime location where there's so much flying where you live, and people see that, and you've got a couple big airlines that have hubs there.
Yeah.
And so people are always on the hunt to want to do that too. Tell me about the future of the podcast and what you guys have planned going for you.
Which one?
Oh man. Well, let's start with Midwest.
With that one, we're starting to ramp up for Oshkosh. Last year when we were out there, for that podcast specifically, that's a target-rich environment. We did like 16 interviews out there last year at Oshkosh. We were just running our tails off. So that was definitely not like just a vacation and hang out and look at airplanes. We were working. And we're kind of anticipating that again this year. We're looking at putting some things together. We're trying to work with EAA and a couple of things to do like some meet and greet stuff, but we will likely be very busy there again this year, trying to just find those opportunities of whether it be vendors that are from the Midwest or people from the Midwest, just working through that at Oshkosh. So that's the big thing in store for that podcast. For Fly the Transition, it's just more of the finding stories and spreading that through others. There's a couple of people that I'm working on to try. I want to get some A&Ps in there, because I think that we would be remiss if we didn't look at aviation and go, we have a little bit of a problem with A&Ps as well, being short on those. So I'm trying to find some people that have been within that space to tell their stories too, because it's, like I said earlier, it's not just about people who can get into the flight deck. There's all kinds of jobs in aviation that people can explore. So I want to explore a few more of those things. So that's kind of what's next on the podcast.
I also think about those airport managers and the FBO managers and the people that get involved with that. I think that is really an interesting realm, because a lot of those people, most of those people are also pilots.
Yeah.
Especially an airfield is a thing that really is a big part of a community, and smart communities leverage that that opportunity for increasing economic wellness through aviation in their areas. Where I grew up in North Carolina. There was a small airport near me, and that thing spent its life mostly basically dormant, and it's just now starting to get people involved with it. And people, like, they just built an aviation museum, which was a huge bill. They had to raise millions of dollars, and now there are things happening there. But I remember as a little kid, like, it was a regional hub for US Air. So you would have Saabs coming in and out of there.
Oh,
and
sure.
then when US Air merged and they got rid of Saabs, like, nothing else ever came in. As you guys move on and move forward and you're growing year on year, I think you get to speak to a lot of people that have done a lot of different things. When you are meeting people that are interested in becoming pilots and you get these responses and people send you emails and stuff like that, like, what advice do you give them about becoming a pilot and about how to do it?
I'm going to steal an answer that I got from one of the guests that I had very, very early on. And it's not just being motivated, it's being disciplined. It's because to be motivated, like, I can be motivated to do something, like go to the gym at the first part of the year. And then that, if you're not disciplined, you're not going to stick with it. So it's finding that discipline. And like, for me, when I was working on my CFI before everything kind of imploded is not the right word, because all sorts of good things happen in my life with work and the aircraft being down. It's just kind of a perfect storm of stuff. But at the time, to be disciplined, like, all right, this hour of the night, I'm going to focus on studying. So kids are winding down. My daughter's back from dance. Let's focus on studying for an hour. And just being disciplined with that to work through the testing and the ratings and things like that. So that's a big thing out the gate. And then just the relationships. I think that you've talked about on your podcast, but I've heard it from our guests as well, of just these non-transactional relationships and how important those become. Because a lot of people can see through you're just here because you think this is some kind of in, or I'm going to have something for you. Not necessarily, I want to work for this company. I'm going to make myself available. I'm going to sweep out the hangars. I'm going to talk to people, and just not necessarily, I'm in this because I want this specific job. It's non-transactional. I'm doing this for the right reasons, to network and create sometimes lasting friendships and mentorships that will carry them into a career.
So many good opportunities there. So much just being present to the people around you and not looking for anything in return, man. That's so smart.
I mean, one of the guys that I have talked to he now runs this helicopter business, but at the time, he's like, helicopters are really cool. I'm going to go hang out with these guys. So he hung out at the hangar of this business that he now is a big part of, like, just BSing, learning about helicopters, literally sweeping the floors of the hangar just to make himself useful, because he wanted to be around it, not because I'm going to go be a big part of this company someday. It was all about just being in the space because he loved aviation and he wanted to get into helicopters. That was his thing.
I love it. I think you do a great job helping people get motivated about the industry and not looking at little setbacks and looking at the long game and trying to focus on the things that they can do to build community where they are. And that's the part that makes aviation permanent, instead of something that you just tried for a little bit and now it's gone.
Right. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Well, Jim, thank you for coming on the show. Thanks for being part of our aviation community. And thanks for recording the second episode, even though I have no idea what happened to the first one.
It's the sock that's missing. It's fine. He'll turn up when you tear this whole thing apart.
All right, pilots, that's a wrap on this episode, and I know what you're thinking. You need to make yourself a little bit better. So how do you make yourself a little bit better? You tighten up your resume. So here's what I want you to do. Go over to my website, spitfireelite.com/podcast, and you can download my free resume template. It is tight, organized, and it's the perfect pilot resume. It's just something I like to do for the pilot group, and it is free to use. So go over there, spitfireelite.com/podcast, and download your free resume template. While you're over there, look at all the services that we offer. Lots of great interview prep, lots of great application review. Everything you need to be a professional pilot is right there. SpitfireElite.com/podcast. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next episode.